And hi, everybody. Welcome to Proline, direct from Las Vegas. I'm Dave Cokin, joined by Jim Feist. We're going to take a look ahead to Week 13 of the college football campaign, really the last of the full schedule Saturdays in college football, plus Week 12 of the NFL, holiday week, Thanksgiving week, 3 games on Thursday, a bunch on the weekend. First, Jim, if people subscribe to this channel, or to our channel, it's free, and they get lots of bonus stuff for free as well.
They sure do, Dave. Just go to ProlineTV.com. Click on the subscribe button. You'll get notifications on new videos. Plus, you'll be sent a code. Get 7 days of my service absolutely free. That's ProlineTV.com.
All right, so we're going to take a look at our Proline poll question of the week. And we started doing this recently. We've seen some great stories in the NFL this year. From the Cowboys' incredible run against the spread and straight up behind rookie Dak Prescott. The Raiders' resurgence in the AFC, they're now 8-2. Derek Carr is a potential MVP. The continued dominance of the Patriots despite missing Tom Brady with the first 4 games and some injury issues as well. But we went the other way with the poll question this week. It's not about the great teams performing well and the good stories. Instead, we asked which team's ability to completely suck this season has surprised you the most. And we came up with 4 nominees: the Carolina Panthers, the Green Bay Packers, the Arizona Cardinals, or the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the results are in, and we have the Green Bay Packers as a pretty much a runaway winner.
56% of the audience voted Green Bay Packers' abysmal performance this season has surprised them the most. My take on that, most of these teams are NFC teams. Jacksonville, you just throw out.
No, I don't know why they were in there.
They shouldn't be in there. They suck. The coaching sucks.
I would have had the Bengals in the poll rather than the Jaguars. But we don't.
They seem to have focused on the NFC here with this, and so there was no Bengals put into the mix. But these 3 teams, the Packers, the Cardinals, and who's the other team? Packers, Cardinals, Panthers.
Right.
They all played the final 2 weeks of the playoffs last year before they got to the Super Bowl. Green Bay played the Cardinals in a wild game that went back and forth, and I believe went to overtime. And Cardinals came out of that, then had to travel to the Panthers and got smoked.
Yep.
The Panthers last year played the weakest schedule and were 15-1 in the regular season. I'm not surprised that they fell off because they're not going to play that weak schedule all the time. So the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, all 3 of these teams, by the way, have kept their quarterbacks. They're all still there. So I kind of agree with the with the Green Bay Packers. I think the audience, the voters, were right on this one. The Packers, it's close.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
close,
they're all disappointing.
They're all very disappointing, and but I think the audience is right.
No, I would agree. If I had to pick one out of that group, I think I'd put the Packers.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to fall this dramatically. And you can argue the other teams have as well, but Green Bay has looked really bad.
Talk a little bit about that. You think there's some tension there between the coach and
I don't know.
Aaron Rodgers? That's the rumor.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not there. And we hear speculation about that stuff all the time. And if you're not there, it's tough to say that there is. I know there has been in the past. There often is between quarterbacks and coaches, especially when they're both high-profile types. But I think it's way more than the quarterback. I mean, they're putting enough points on the board recently. Rodgers has, in fact, warmed up.
Rodgers is fantastic.
He's tremendous, but their defense is atrocious.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you saw that the Redskins are rolling up and down the field on them, even into the wind, on that Sunday night game. So we want to thank everybody for participating in this week's poll question and remind you that we'll post a new Proline poll question every Monday morning on our respective social media networks, and the results will get announced right here on the show.
And if you'd like to send us a suggestion for a Proline poll question of the week, or if you have any questions about any of our selections or service packages, send me a direct message on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, and I'll get right back to you.
All right, so we got a tremendously important football game.
Ooh, yes.
It's rivalry weekend, so there's a lot of big games out there, but one that has a clear bearing on the playoffs is the matchup between Michigan and Ohio State. For anybody who's not up to speed on this, Ohio State needs a lot of things to happen to get to the championship game in the Big Ten. And what they need to do, obviously, is beat Michigan. And they have to hope Penn State loses one of its last 2 games, loses its last game to Michigan State. possible, not likely. Michigan, obviously, they need to win this game. If Michigan wins this game, they're going to be in the Big Ten title game. So there's a ton on the line here. Quick editorial on Ohio State, and I know this is going to infuriate some Buckeye fans, and I think I might have said this last week, but I'm going to say it again. If you're asking me whether I think Ohio State is one of the 4 best teams in the country, the answer is yes. If you're asking me whether I think that they should have any position in the playoffs whatsoever, even in the conversation, if they don't get to the Big Ten title game, the answer is no. That's the hazard of a 4-team playoff. It should be only teams that make it at least to their conference championship game, and to me, it should be 4 conference champions. You're supposed to win your way into the playoffs.
So you feel that Penn State, even though they're ranked much lower.
Penn State is clearly not as good as Michigan and Ohio State.
But because they win
they beat, look, and I understand, well, Ohio State's obviously better than Penn State. Yeah, but Penn State beat Ohio State. That's the problem I have with this playoff format, and I always will. You can't vote this stuff in. It has to be decided on the football field. And if Penn State if Ohio State beats Michigan, and Penn State ends up winning the Big Ten championship, they have to be the team that's in. I'm sorry. I don't care if your opinion is, and my opinion would be the same thing. I don't care if your opinion is that, well, they're not as good as Ohio State. They beat them on the football field. That has to count more than anything else.
Well, if you're looking at college basketball, if a team beats you in the tournament,
you're out.
You're out.
Yeah.
So in this case, what you're saying,
and you get in the tournament if you win your conference.
Right. Well,
you're in.
That way, and they also vote in other ones as well.
Fine, but that's the problem with having a 4-team college football playoff. It's not enough. They have to go to 8.
Is it possible that, hypothetically, Ohio State wins this week, Penn State wins, and both of them go?
No. 0% chance.
Who would be the 4 teams?
Alabama.
If those 2 things happen.
Alabama. If they win out Clemson, they've only got the 1 loss. I think Ohio State's going to get in anyway if they win this game. And it's completely.
So basically, what you're saying, Penn State gets screwed.
It's completely unfair. Not only from the reasons I just said, but Ohio State, if they win this game, they're probably going to get in the playoffs, and they won't even have to go on the football field in a championship game and have that risk. It's a complete screw job for teams that have to go through that championship process or not and face possibly a second loss. Washington's an example. Washington's got 1 loss right now. If they win out, personally, I think Washington belongs in. I know they had the loss to USC, but if they win the championship, the Pac-12 championship, if they beat Washington State and win the Pac-12 championship, then I think Washington belongs in. But Washington will still have to get by another hurdle that Ohio State won't have to face. That's totally unfair.
You're totally right. You are right, because if they can sit home, having lost to Penn State, not have to play the game and get in, the total screw job.
Yeah.
But that's politics, and we know what happens with politics.
Yes, it is. So. All right, so anyway, let's look at the game, and it's the best rivalry game in this series in many years. Because let's face it, Ohio State's owned the team. I think they've won 13 in the last 15. But you had the Rich Rod era at Michigan, and then you had the Brady Hoke era at Michigan, and the program just had declined substantially. It had even gone downhill at the end of the Lloyd Carr administration. So Ohio State really has never gone into a
been a more stable program.
Well, plus once Urban Meyer arrived,
there. But now you have Harbaugh.
Yeah. But between Tressel and Urban Meyer, that's a lot of wins.
Yeah.
Okay. Now Harbaugh's there, as you mentioned, and Michigan's really good, but they do have an issue at quarterback this weekend, and you wonder how much of an impact that's going to have in this game.
Well, it should have an impact. I mean, if the kid is not healthy and you're going to corn, I think it's a drop-off.
So do I.
How about schedule this year? Who played the tougher schedule? I'd say Ohio State.
I think Ohio State by a little bit. I mean, let's face it, they had to go to Oklahoma. Yeah. And again, what I just said, I want to make it clear. If I were voting on one of the 4 best teams in the country, I would absolutely have Ohio State in there. I think they're one of the 4 best teams. I'm just making an argument that the
So
system screwed up.
basically, the issue really comes down to this. If you win your conference championship, you're saying that should matter.
I think the 5 major. Look. I think they have to go to 8 teams. I said this when they first started. I said, well, it's better than what they had, but 4 isn't
Far better.
4 isn't
than
enough.
than what we had.
Yeah, because you get an actual championship now that gets decided on the field. But you need to go to 8. So the 5 major conferences all get an automatic bid, and then you get 3 at-larges, and then not a problem at all to get Ohio State into the playoffs.
This is a tough game to handicap. I mean, if the quarterbacks are healthy on both sides, everything's equal. It's really kind of a toss-up, maybe a little 2 or 3 point edge to Ohio State. But
well, I'll tell you one thing.
With the quarterback issue with Spates, that's an issue.
I can guarantee you this. This is an absolute 100% guarantee. And it is if all the teams that are in contention for those 4 spots, they're all rooting for Michigan. It's like, okay, Michigan wins this, then they win the Big 12 title, they're in. And that takes care of Big Ten, excuse me. That takes care of the Big Ten. Then you don't have to, because Ohio State's out if they lose, and obviously Michigan would finish ahead of Penn State if they win this game. So Michigan can make a lot of people happy. And in fact, I think of the selection committee itself, if they win this football game, make their job a lot easier.
Okay, so you mentioned Clemson.
But I don't think they're going to win.
Well, anything can happen. And with Harbaugh, he's a great coach. He's done it in the pros. He's done it in the colleges. Stanford, amazing San Francisco 49ers. He's doing it here. He turns programs around. He comes up with a big game. But if we get down to other teams, besides Clemson, besides the Ohio State, the Michigan, the Penn State, who do you think is hanging out there that could sneak in?
I don't think anybody could sneak in. I think we've got, it's a way just maintaining at this point for everybody.
And then a committee, it's all politics. It all comes down to politics.
Well, I think they do their best, but it's just you can't vote. This isn't an election, okay? Where whoever gets the most electoral college votes wins.
Oh, don't start that.
Well, no, that's the rules. That's the rules, and that's the way it goes. If you don't like the rules, change the rules. This is supposed to be decided on the football field, and they still aren't getting it right. So anyway, as far as the game is concerned, I'm not going to play the game at all. I've got some big stuff this weekend, but this game's too tough for me. If I had to play it, I'd take the under. I think with the Michigan issues, they need to shorten the game as much as possible and not get into a shooting match with Ohio State. They're not going to win a high-scoring game, I don't think so.
Well,
I think it's going to be an under.
If you look at last week, I think both teams were kind of looking ahead to this one. Ohio State's the healthier team. I favor Ohio State in the game. I think they're going to walk away with the win. I think it's going to be tight, but it could be 7 to 10 points.
If you want to ask us any Vegas sports wagering questions, go to ProLineTV.com. Drop us a question. It doesn't cost anything. And speaking of not costing anything, be sure to hit the subscribe button because that will get you 7 days of action free.
Plus, go to JimFeist.com for free stats, articles, videos, my free fast facts, and plays from the nation's top handicappers.
All right, when we come back, we'll start looking at the NFL Week 12. We'll get into a big game featuring a couple of teams with playoff hopes. One of them's in first place in their division. The other one needs to get it rolling. Stay tuned. All right, some close calls last week in the NFL. You had the Giants, 6.5-point favorites. They beat the Bears 22-16. Missed an extra point late. In fact, I think they missed 2 in the game, so that really hurt as far as the spread's concerned. Panthers, with 3.5-point favorites, dominating the second straight week this has happened with them.
Yeah.
Dominating the game and can't close it out. They did manage to get the win, but not the cover against the Saints. And of course, the most amazing thing last weekend was was it 12 missed extra points? Unbelievable.
12. And, when they kick field goals from the same distance,
yeah,
they do great.
Yeah, I know, it's weird.
But it's totally, I can't figure it out. I don't think anybody else can figure it out either. Arizona, Atlanta, Dave, these are two teams, Atlanta is.
Well, one's in good shape.
They are, but they're slipping. They're not playing as well.
But the division stinks.
Well, that's
they've got a nice lead over
That
Tampa.
really helps them.
Tampa's won a couple, but they're not really a threat. The Saints, I don't think the Saints are a threat because they just, there's just too many holes there. And Carolina, you keep on thinking, well, Carolina's going to put it together, and then they go out and play great first halves, and second half they look like a Pop Warner team.
Losing Luke Kuechly is a big loss.
Huge.
That young man is a tremendous player.
But Arizona is a mess right now. They're 4-5-1, and this team has some. You could have made a good argument on a poll question. They're even more disappointing than Green Bay because they look beaten right now. So I guess the Packers do too. The coach, I don't think he's going to be able to coach much longer. I mean,
The health issues.
It's just, you're not supposed to die on the job, and I'm not. I know that sounds grotesque, but it's really getting scary with Arians. Okay, he's got physical issues.
And it's a stress job. It's not your
especially at the way he goes manic on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Carson Palmer.
How did he survive last week? 23 hits.
He's just getting crushed, and he's not mobile, and he's had an injury history. You almost think, boy, something's going to happen to Palmer. The defense has missed Honey Badger. They're 4-5-1, and they're almost lucky to be 4-5-1. They're a bad-looking football team right now, and I just have a tough time making a case for them against Atlanta. It's one of those games that looks trappy to me because it really does look easy to take Atlanta at this point. But boy, the Falcons just appear to be in a lot better shape.
The Falcons have the offensive power, a little bit more mobility at quarterback, a little bit more rest, and Palmer's coming off getting totally beat up last week. I think he was hit 23 times in that game, which is absolutely an abomination. The other thing is,
the weird thing is this: the stats are still good. If you just look at the overall stats, Arizona's like, why is this team losing?
They are a good team. A lot of people picked them to win the West here, the NFC
West. Look at this
West.
stuff here. Number 9, John Creighton puts this together for us. Number 9 in yards, number 11 passing, number 13 rush, 18 points. Defense, number 2 in yards, number 10 in points. Number 1 against the pass. This is not a team that should be below 500, but something isn't connecting there. It's beyond Palmer, and I just wonder, and Arians did a phenomenal job last year, but you wonder about, with all the stuff that's going on, a couple of visits to the hospital this year, you just wonder if this team's focus is simply not there right now.
It's one of those years. It's you play well, you do a lot of things right, and you still don't come out with the wins at the end. This is a tough spot for them. When you look at the way, let's talk about what the goal is every year, to get into the playoffs and then get hot at the right time and make it to the Super Bowl. The way Seattle is playing right now,
No, they're getting warm.
they're the number 1 or 1A team in the league right now. As far as, who is it? Dallas, New England,
Dallas,
or Seattle?
yeah.
They're in that group.
Yeah.
So unless something really bad happens to Seattle, Arizona's not going to make the playoffs.
No.
They can't. This record, they're 4-5-1. They're not going to get in as a wild card.
I think the wild cards are coming out of the East.
Yeah, they are. Oh, the NFC
Both of
East
them.
is unbelievable.
Great division.
Yes. And nobody expected that. That they're that
No,
could
I
all
thought,
be that good.
It's really funny because I thought going in, and it said so, I said this could be the most competitive division in the NFL.
And it is.
And it is, but it's also the best, which I didn't envision. I didn't think the Cowboys were going to be anything close to this. I thought the Redskins were a little fluky last year, which turned out not to be the case. The Giants might get better, but I didn't know how good they were. And the Eagles, kind of in a rebuild mode. Not a bad rebuild
With a
mode.
rookie quarterback, nobody expected them to be competitive. And they played a decent game even against Seattle
this
last
division's
week.
fun. It's a terrific division.
It is. I think, like you said, 3 teams are going to come out of that division.
Yeah, so do I.
The winner of the NFC East and the 2 wild cards will probably come out of that division, leaving one very sad team on the outside looking in. But Arizona's not going to make it. The Falcons, I don't think, are thinking about wild card. I think they can win their division. They do have a big advantage in talent, and they got the best record at this point. I don't think unless they fall. You never know about injuries. Injuries can make a huge difference. Like this weekend, for example, we lost some players already. We've got quarterbacks out. Andrew Luck is out. Gronkowski is out. Cutler is done for the year, but I don't know if that's a loss.
I think he's done with the Bears.
Yeah, he's done with the Bears.
That'll be the end of his Chicago Bears
That
career.
might be an improvement by losing him. I mean, who knows?
The problem is Hoyer's hurt too.
Yeah, they're down to number 3, which is Matt Barkley. I don't think so, folks. Yeah. But anyway, as far as this game's concerned, I think this is the Falcons' game to win. If they blow it, it's because they turn the ball over and don't play well. I think Palmer is going to have a hard time bouncing back at his age with his injury history and the fact the Falcons are a little rested.
All right, Jim, viewers can get free plays from us.
That's right.
Right to their cell phone. It's very easy.
You just text GAME, G-A-M-E, to 25827, and you'll get a free play right now to your cell phone. It's really easy. Text GAME, G-A-M-E, 25827.
All right, when we come back, we're going to continue with some NFL notes, and we'll look at a big game in the AFC, a rivalry matchup between the Chiefs and the Broncos, so stay tuned. All right, time to continue with the NFL. A couple of notes from last week, and then we'll look at the Chiefs and Broncos. Jared Goff made his debut last week. Mixed stuff for the Rams. I think it was time for him to get on the field and see what he could do. The Rams were up 10-0 and then lost the game. And Miami, where'd this come from? The Dolphins have won 6 in a row.
Offensive line. Now, that didn't play a role this past week because they lost 3 offensive linemen, 2 going into the game and 1 during the game. They started the season off with offensive line problems, and they did not play well. Then 5 games ago, they got 2 offensive line starters back and plugged them in and started to play terrific. And they have the running back, Ajayi?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, unbelievable.
Well, he's playing well.
Oh, unbelievable. Tannehill, I don't know what to think of him. I see flashes every once in a while, but not consistency.
He's getting W's, though.
That
builds a
5-game winning streak is tough for any NFL
Is it
team.
5 or 6 now?
I thought it was 5.
Well, I know one thing. They got the 49ers. So probably going to be extending that streak. And then they got Arizona
However,
next
the
week.
49ers are starting to make a few moves. I mean, they're not great. They don't have much talent. They don't have much depth. But Kaepernick is starting to make some plays like he did a few years ago.
Got to put points.
Well, they don't have a lot of talent.
They're a bad football team, and I'm
it's
not sure they want to win games right now.
It's tough to lay points, though, with a team with offensive line
It
problems.
is, but even last week, I mean, New England really didn't play that well, and New England still finds a way to cover against San Francisco. I mean, you can be the sharpest guy out there, but I'll put it this way. If you're betting against Dallas, if you're looking to be a wise guy, and betting against Dallas and betting on Cleveland, you're getting your lunch handed to you in a big way. So maybe some of the sharp money isn't as sharp as they like to think it is.
There's a saying.
Public's cleaning up.
The public bets on teams, and the sharps, or the pros, bet on numbers. Yep. Well, that's where they get into trouble. If they're betting on numbers and they're always taking value. For example, this week, Pittsburgh was like a 2.5, 3-point favorite at Indianapolis. I probably would have liked Indianapolis in that game if I could have grabbed the 3, because I think they've been a little competitive. And Pittsburgh's defense does not playing that well. Their offense, Tomlin, all the things he does is a little crazy. But then Luck is out with the concussion protocol.
Honestly, I don't think they adjusted the line enough.
It's up to 10.
Well, but it got bet up to 10.
Yeah.
They adjusted it to like 7.5.
I know, and then they
go,
got,
wait a minute, it's got to be at least a full touchdown from Luck to Tolzien.
Yeah, that's true.
That's about as big a gap between quarterbacks as you ever want.
But anyway, you will see the pros come in and grab those 10s.
Yep, well, good luck to them.
They're the number players.
It won't be me.
The difference between players that bet teams and players that bet numbers.
Right now, players that bet teams are doing better than players that bet numbers this year.
Way better.
Way better. All right, Chiefs and Broncos. Look, obviously it's a big game. Kansas City's still 17-3 in their last 20 games. They had the upset loss last week at home to Tampa. That was a big surprise. But I think they got caught looking ahead and paid for it. The Broncos also weren't particularly sharp last weekend, so they might have been looking at. This is a big game between two teams that don't like each other. And I think what you're going to get is a late November defensive slugfest on the football field at Mile High.
It's definitely a game that I don't look for a lot of points to be scored for sure. We do have to check the weather because they are playing in Denver, and anything can happen in Denver. You want to see weather change? Wait 15 minutes. It changes there because they're playing high, Mile High Stadium, 5,000 feet. Things change quickly. The question here comes down to Trevor Siemian against Alex Smith. Alex Smith has been a game manager for years. However, this guy wins. He rarely makes mistakes. However, last week he made mistakes.
Yeah, he did.
Stuff that you never see this guy do. And I think he'll bounce back with a very big effort here because of that. I mean, because that's who he is. And he's consistently been that way for his whole career. He's not exciting. He doesn't push the ball down the field the way he probably should, at least on occasion. Trevor Siemian, first-year guy, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Serviceable.
That's a bad ratio, though, when you've got a good team.
But that's all he is serviceable. He's a game manager. I think Siemian is ideally, he's a starter on a bad team and a good backup on a good team.
That's why I think Denver is a perfect place for Tony Romo to end up.
That's interesting. Yeah. They spent a lot of money on Paxton Lynch, but
he's not ready.
no, not ready this year, but we'll see what happens next year. All right, anyway, a couple of notes on this game very quickly for those who like trends. The Broncos have been very good after a bye, particularly at home, 6-1-1 against the spread. Unders have been prevalent when they're coming off a bye. Head-to-head, the road team's covered 5 in a row. In this series, the under has been, it's only gone over twice in the last 11 meetings. And the under at Denver, 3-0-2. 2 games landed on the number. So we'll see how it plays out. It should be a fun game, and I think you'll get tons of intensity in this matchup
I think it'll be fun to watch.
It is.
It may not be exciting to watch because you may not see a lot of points.
Well, that to me,
but it's all right.
exciting to me is a 20 to 17
Hey,
type
the
of
other
football
night
game.
they played a game in Mexico. And even though the game was crazy and there was some bad calls, I mean, that goes on.
And the laser stuff was
the
an
laser
issue too.
stuff. I mean, I don't know.
We can do an hour on NFL officiating.
Yes.
But you guys feel the same way we do, so what's the point? Fix the league. Fix it, league. Okay, anyway, if you want to get free plays every day and a recorded message from our team of Vegas analysts and experts, the number to call is 888-478-9222.
Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jim Feist Sports. And feel free to send me a direct message with any questions about the Las Vegas wagering scene.
And thanks for joining us. We will see you next week with another edition of Proline.